Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. Today, I want to give a shout out to a friend, Aaron Bezirkanyan, entrepreneur and watch designer. Back in 2019, Watch Time LA, he showed me a plastic prototype of a case that he envisioned becoming an actual watch for sale further down the line. Well, how much further down the line? 2022, because his company, Havid Nagan, has just launched this, the HN00, spelled HN00. Now, the model we have right here is emblematic of production in almost every regard except for two. The straps are going to get a little bit better, and the printed pattern on top of the barrel is going to be engraved in the production model. That said, everything about this HN0 in Arka blue is going to be production. So let's talk about the basics. This is a limited edition. There are two other versions of the dial, but this Arka blue will be a limited series. Havid Nagan is Armenian for eternity, or it's a commercialized version of the Armenian term for eternity, and that is the significance of the logo. The watch is 40.7 millimeters in diameter in grade 5 titanium, but it's a tonneau shape, so it wears a little bit differently than a 40.7 round watch. There are two different ways to measure the thickness here. If you measure the thinnest part at the center, it is 12.2 millimeters top to bottom. If you measure the theoretically thickest portion, that is the end along the bezel, so at the end of the lug, the top of the bezel, there it's going to be 14.8 millimeters, and then the total distance across the wrist is 50 millimeters, but keep in mind it has a dramatically cambered case, so it arcs to trace the curvature of your wrist. Now, the timepiece is very light in the hand, and as much as it's made almost exclusively from grade 5 titanium and sapphire. Sapphire over the dial, sapphire over the case back. We're going to throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and it wears quite well. Honestly, it's a lot like a Richard Mille in terms of how it fits, meaning as big as it is, it doesn't wear that big. Now, these tonneau-style cases have a wonderful redeeming quality in their curvature because that is how a wrist is shaped. So my wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. You get a sense of the thickness of the watch. It's not a thin timepiece, but nor is it particularly unwieldy, and I can imagine it fitting on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters in circumference. My wrist and my arm have always been a lot bigger than they look on camera because we're so close to the lens. You can see my hand is actually quite large. My arm is not tiny. So the watch is not nearly as big as it looks close hauled. Now again, the strap here is pretty much a prototype. The finished article will be alcantera, which is a super premium synthetic suede that's generally used in ultra high performance cars, certain performance driving equipment, and also it's generally optional on super luxury vehicles for things like headliners and touch points, steering wheels, shift knobs, that sort of thing. So it's very durable, and here you can see it is color keyed to the dial. Now there's also a little bit of an insert that gives it its shape and its definition and allows it to match the volume of the lug. There is a pronounced taper, both in width and in thickness as you move away from the lug. We have a monotone stitch here. We have minder loops. We have a buckle that, if anything, is maybe a little bit over-engineered. It is very, very substantial. And as you can see, it is a double fold. It is fixed to the strap resolutely, and it is fixed on the opposite side as well. This has a buckle and a minder screw. Some buckles, Vacheron is known for this, so is Glasuta Original. They actually pin the buckle to the strap using a screw, so you have an extra layer of protection against accidentally dropping the thing. There is a twin trigger release, and you can see that this buckle is made of stainless steel to compound its durability. The watch itself is titanium. Now, rolling back to the case, you can see that there's some differentiation in the finishing. Because it's grade 5 titanium, it can be polished. The grade 2 stuff generally cannot. So grade 5 is wonderful because it's hypoallergenic like grade 2. It is lighter than steel like grade 2, but it's also more scratch resistant than grade 2, and for that matter, it's more scratch resistant than most conventional 316 and 904L steels. Now, we have a little logo, again, that eternity symbol. It's a bit like a pinwheel on the crown. The crown has a nice recess, so there's a bit of a shear guard profile to protect it. Now, though the crown here does not screw down, the watch is 100 meters water resistant. We have the Arka blue on the dial. The dial is stamped guilloche in a grand dorche or barleycorn pattern. Now, the nice thing about the Grand Dorche is that it does have a wonderful billowing, expanding scope. As you move away from the center, the waves get larger. So it is stamped. It's not engine turned, but it is a wonderful pattern with lacquer atop to give it a dimensional depth that you can't get just with lacquer or just with guilloche. It's the combination of the two together that gives it almost a prismatic effect. It is a fade, it is a fume, so it's lighter at the center than it is at the edge. All of the indices are applique, and you can see there's also an applique logo up at 12 o'clock. We'll do a loom shot real quick here. The perception of quality is extremely high, both in the hand and to the eye. Now we're going to flip it over. One of the best things about this watch is that it's designed in California. That's where Aaron is based. And it's made in La Chaux-de-Fonds. And the manufacturing partner is Schwarz Etienne. Now this is the ASE automatic Schwarz Etienne caliber. The nice thing about this movement is that not only is it a full manufacturer product by Schwarz Etienne, I mean the escapement, the balance, the hairspring, all of it, but its tech specs are pretty impressive. So it's an automatic winder with a micro rotor. It's got an 86-hour power reserve, though the watch does not have a seconds hand. The hacking functionality does remain intact. It's adjusted to 5 positions, which is the chronometer standard. If you look at the ISO 3159 that governs the COSC, let me see if I can get a little bit closer here, 5 positions is the standard. It's a 33 joule movement, and it beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. It is a very good-looking movement with nickel anthracite coating and a couple of different finishes. You can see particularly broad stripes vertically along the bridges, satination on the wheels, including on the ratchet wheel. You can see that there's engine turning on the base plate or perlage. All the screw heads are nicely black polished and handsomely detailed, and every nook and every cranny has something to recommend it. There's really no lack of interesting things to see. The Schwarz Etienne caliber has both an attractive level of finish, which is appropriate for the price, and then it also has an attractive architecture, which is the interplay of components and where they're placed. Everything about this watch is appealing, and it's kind of fun because it is a watch created by someone just like you and me, someone who had a dream, first of being a collector and later of being a manufacturer and putting his name on the dial. Well, for reasons of traditional watchmaking modesty, Aaron did not put his name on the dial, instead referring to his own cultural heritage. This is the latest model from Havid Nagan. It is the HN00, and if you want to learn more about that, check them out on the web and on Instagram. Time out, Tim out, and thanks for logging on.